Well, David, most people would agree that true friendships, real friendships, are really important. We would like in this video to talk about what it means to be a true friend and how to gain really good in person relationships. And we're doing this because we think something in our social media age has been lost in regard to relationships. I think people have forgotten what it means to be a true friend and what the rules are. So we want to focus on this in this video. So can we talk about
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
Well, what is a true friend like?
Yeah. So, a true friend, I think that there are some very important qualities that mark a true friendship. Qualities like being unselfish, being sacrificial, being considerate, kind. There's a bunch. What are some that you
Well,
think
I
of?
think about proactivity. I think that it's really important to be a proactive person in regard to relationships, such that you are taking primary responsibility for the relationships around you, whether they are family relationships or friends. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think what we're describing here is ultimately these marks of a true friendship are it's not primarily asking what can I get out of this, but instead asking how can I bless or serve or make this friendship better from my perspective. And so I think as we look at that, we need to look at some different examples. I think there are some good examples in the Bible, particularly the Old Testament in the book of Samuel. We see David and Jonathan. Jonathan is the son of King Saul, who was king over Israel. But he was rejected by God, and David was anointed as king in his place. And so, what you see, though, through their friendship in 1 Samuel 18, 19, 20, is that though there was a lot to lose between a relationship between Jonathan and David, instead, what we see is Jonathan elevated David and protected David, and he knew that God had chosen him as king. But it says that the Bible says that their souls had been knit together, and you see these examples of friendship through protection. You see it through these outward signs of like even Jonathan saying, "Here's my robe, here's my sword." These signs of his authority, his signs of his role and giving those over to David. And so you see this sacrificial quality, you see this loyal quality, putting someone else's well being above your own needs or ambitions.
So, in terms of what a true friend is like, I think we've focused on the fact that a true friend is sacrificial. In other words, sacrifices himself for the needs of others. A true friend is unselfish. And we see that in the life of Jonathan and David. So I think that's a very important example. And yes, they had a really good friendship because of those qualities. So that is really hard to do. It's very hard to be unselfish. It's very hard to sacrifice my comfort for someone else. It's very hard to be proactive and to take primary responsibility for relationships. So we need to talk about what makes in-person relationships that are strong so valuable. What makes them valuable?
Yeah. You think about there's so much value in a true friendship because well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think some primary reasons. One, we were made for friendships. We were made for relationships. If you think throughout all of history, we were created to be in relationships, whether it's through romantic relationships, family relationships, community, but also friendship. This was the way that we were designed. This is the way we best work. But then also, I think about the fact that we go further, we accomplish more, we accomplish greater things in close relationships, in community. You think about some of the greatest things that have happened in history, they were rarely done alone. Or you even think about some of the greatest things that you've accomplished personally, they were rarely done alone. They were done in community with somebody there to help you and encourage you and inspire you.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Your number one point was happiness. Uh, Relationships help us to become happier. And I think we've seen and are seeing what happens in a society when a lot of people are not investing the energy and the time into building strong in-person relationships. Instead, they're trying to find them online or on social media. And we're seeing all kinds of anxiety and depression amongst younger people because of a lack of strong relationships. And your point about accomplishing significant things, I think that's very important. You can think of all kinds of examples. I think of Walt Disney, the founder of Disney World and the creator of Mickey Mouse. He was the visionary, he was the leader, and he was a genius. But he had a lot of friends who helped him make that vision a reality. So, not taking away from the leader, you need the leader, you need the visionary, but he had strong relationships that helped him significantly. Are there any others that come to mind to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about great leaders and folks throughout history, they didn't just surround themselves with people that would help them accomplish things. They surround themselves with people that really built them up. And I think of particularly John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two great men in American history who both served as president. Their politics were very different, but they were close friends, best friends for the majority of their life. They wrote letters weekly, if not daily, all the way up until their death, which they died on the same day. And you think about these guys that they were great men who needed to be encouraged and needed to be challenged. And you see it in those kind of relationships, because I think with these relationships, the value comes from, without them, we become so self-focused and we become adrift. And when we are challenged to care for others, then that brings out the best parts of ourselves.
Yeah, very interesting, very good. So we've talked about what a true friend is like, and that really focuses on, that really comes down to being unselfish and sacrificial for the needs of others. We've talked about why relationships matter, why they're so valuable. Can we talk about how to gain strong relationships?
Yeah. Well, you think about how do we make good, strong relationships? Well, it starts with us being good friends. How do we make good friends? We be good friends. You have to start by taking on these qualities and virtues that we're saying are important in a friendship. So be the kind of friend that you want others to be for you. Be encouraging, be loyal, be sacrificial. Um, and so people are drawn to that. People are drawn to, nobody wants to be a part of a relationship where the other person is just constantly taking. They want to be a part of a relationship where they feel like they're also going to get something out of it. And so be that kind of friend. And I think also just looking around, finding some examples that you can model yourself after. We were talking about the Bible. There's some great examples in the Bible. Ruth and Naomi. Ruth, who was Naomi's daughter-in-law, who, though she could have abandoned her in a time of need, said, "Where you go, I'll go. Your people will be my people." And she spent the rest of her life really serving this mother-in-law. Or Esther, who is a hero who, though it was taking her life in her own hands, she went before the king and saved the people of Israel. There's so many examples. I'm sure you have some too.
Yeah, David is a great example to me, and you brought him up earlier, but he was just so unselfish, and he was constantly thinking about the needs of others. So that's quite the example to think through and to see how he lived that out. Also, Nehemiah, he was a leader who rebuilt the wall of Jerusalem after it had been destroyed by the Babylonian Empire. This was about 450 years before the time of Christ. But he faced a lot of opposition, but it's quite clear he gained a lot of relationships by just constantly thinking about what needed to be done. And so his focus was off himself. It was on to the needs of others. So those are very useful examples. And I think it's important that you brought that up, because it's important to try to cultivate the virtues required for strong friendships. But we do need examples, and we do need to learn from those who have come before us and who have done a great job building strong relationships. Well, thank you, David, for this excellent conversation.
Thank you.